Charlie Rangel. Charlie Rangel's been in the house for a long time, and he's a survivor. And he's been surviving past some scandals, etc. And he had some choice words for the Tea Party and others when he was speaking to David Freelander of the Daily Beast. First, he said, it's the same group when we're talking about the filibusters, etc., and the Tea Party. So this one's about the Tea Party. It's the same group we faced in the South with those white crackers and the dogs and the police. They didn't care about how they looked. It was just fierce indifference to human life that caused America to say enough is enough. Now, when talking about the overall Republican plans and the Tea Party plans to bottle everything up in the Senate, he said, what is happening is sabotage. Terrorists couldn't do a better job than Republicans are doing. Woo. So those are some very strong words. Thoughts, go. Jimmy.
So I agree with everything he said, and I wasn't alive or around during the time of the actual civil rights struggle to pass the Civil Rights Bill and get equal rights for African Americans in our country. But I wonder what kind of rhetoric they used back then about the Bull. What did they call Bull Connor? Did they have to treat him with kid gloves? Could they not call him out? Like Charlie Rangel, that is true, right? So he's seen these people before. This isn't the first time. He knows who these guys are. And we've been talking about what Fox News has been doing in response to Barack Obama's speech about how white people are afraid of black people. Fox News' response was to say, of course we're afraid of you. You're all fucking murderers, right? So he's just saying, well, we have to call this out now. We have to stop pretending that we're going to get in trouble if we call a spade or a racist, and I'm just going to start doing it. And I think that's great. We need more of that. We need more of that. We can't stop. You know, when Joe Scarborough goes on his Morning Joe show and complains about Sean Hannity ginning up racism for ratings, you go, really, Joe? Did you just buy a TV yesterday? Because that's all they do over there. Where's your inspector hat? I mean, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, even Chris Wallace does that stuff. So I think it's great that Charlie Rangel's doing this, and I wish more Democrats would do it.
So I actually disagree a little bit. I think that I think the word terrorist is a little too strong there, and I think cracker is too strong. Okay. Yeah. Now, if saying they're racist is different, okay, and saying some specific guys are racist is different. Saying all the Tea Party guys are racist, I think, goes too far. Like, for example, if you said, look, Rand Paul, man, I mean, 3 strikes and you're out. I mean, he's had all these different issues. Okay, put aside his ideological difference in the beginning with the Civil Rights Act, but he hired a couple of guys who were clearly racist, including the Southern Avenger, right? And who says, you know, that John Wilkes Booth's heart was in the right place when he shot and murdered Lincoln. So, you know, okay, I'm with you. But when you just say they're all racist, I even think that's a little unfair. Now, that's an interesting argument, whether you fight fire with fire. You know, it's not like Hannity's fair. It's not like O'Reilly's fair. But I wouldn't go in that direction.
I say things like the Nazis were mean. I bet you some of them were nice to dogs.
See, again, you've gone too far, because they're not all Nazis.
No, I'm saying not Nazis. I'm saying Nazis.
Actual Nazis.
Actual Nazis.
Yeah. Right. I know, but you're using that as an analogy.
I'm saying that you can generalize about groups. It's okay. It's okay to generalize about. It's okay to generalize about this, the people who were pushing back the marchers on Selma. All right. It's okay to generalize about them and call them crackers, because they were. Right. Bull Connor and the people that were surrounding him were crackers.
Right, but I don't know if these guys are crackers.
All right, so
yes.
So Charlie Rangel's rant, in general, I agree with. I agree with you that his target has to be more precise. He just threw it out there with a lot of theys and thems, and we don't know who he's talking about. And to Jimmy's point, if he's talking about the actual Bull Connor and people who are sympathetic to that ideology, of course he's right. But his point on Republicans being, you know, worse than the terrorists, I agree with that. And not necessarily because the Republicans are racist. They might be, some of them are, but some are motivated by greed or just misguided thoughts. But what the Republicans are doing with the monetary policy, our criminal justice system, and you know, the enforcement of drug laws, all of these things, you know, the gutting of our social safety net, that terrorists can't do that. We can only do that to ourselves. You know, passing all these laws where we don't have rights, where they're spying on us. I mean, we've disenfranchised an entire class of people through these insane drug laws. And then it's like this brilliant, diabolical, genius move where we take these people and put them in prisons. Then we make money off of them because they're in prisons, and then they can't vote because now they're felons.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect. It's like killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Anyway. he is right. I mean, our policy, and it's not just the Republicans. The Democrats are, in many ways, you know, a part of the problem. But the policies adopted by Americans hurt Americans much more than what the terrorists could have ever hurt.
Now, look, if you were to specify that point to taking away our freedoms and, you know, violating the Fourth Amendment, and said terrorists couldn't do that, we did that to ourselves. I understand what you're saying. But then, Steve, I think your point is too broad. Again, like, because, look, we can have real policy differences, and if we think, well, okay, I think you did tremendous damage to the country, damage that, yes, the terrorists couldn't do.
No,
they could say the same thing about us because they honestly believe we've done tremendous damage to the country, which the terrorists couldn't do.
All right, so let's name them. I mean, like deregulation of our financial markets. I mean, that's a massive, massive problem. We lose 40,000 people a year. They die from lack of health care. That's because we don't have a good healthcare policy. These policies hurt us much more than terrorists can hurt us.
No, I know, but I don't think it's helpful to mention the terrorist angle there. You can say, hey, listen, we lost 8 million jobs during the Great Recession. Yes, technically the terrorists couldn't do that, right? Yeah. But I don't see that that's a helpful point.
When you say, I think it's helpful in a sense that it helps shift the debate. Now they're on their heels defending themselves from being terrorists, the way Democrats had to defend themselves about being not American enough or anti-American if they were against the Iraq War, which is what Chris Matthews did to Phil Donahue, called him un-American because he full-throatedly opposed the Iraq War as opposed to a way other people were doing it. So I think that you change the debate when you do that. Hey, you guys are worse than terrorists. So now maybe George Snuffleupagus says, is that true? Look at what you guys are doing in Congress, how you've obstructed even the common sense bills that you used to be for. Isn't that a form of terror? So maybe it does shift the debate. And if it doesn't, who gives a shit?
But okay, all right, let me just add one quick thing there, and then I'm going to go to John. Because Rangel kind of addressed that. He said, and now my friend Peter King is on their hit list. Peter King, a Republican, is considered a goddamn communist. He's saying they've shifted the debate so much to the right that Peter King, who's the guy who's doing the witch hunt on Muslims. And who's a bigot, who's a massive right-winger, they're calling him a far-left communist, right? Because he doesn't agree with their insane radical right-wing agenda. And I guess he's in a one-man Overton window shifting crew. Rangel's like taking the window and going, no, I'm putting it over here. You guys are the crackers and the terrorists. Yeah. So that's why I think it's an interesting question as to whether you fight fire with fire. But what I'm saying is it is fire. Yeah, I don't think it's true.
And you also have to understand that, unfortunately, we have a media system that's going to take this and probably right now on one of the screens in the other room are probably focusing on cracker and they're focusing on terrorists.
That's exactly right.
And the conversation has been shifted, although not necessarily in a way that benefits our side.
Because they know that the Democrats and liberals will immediately back down as soon as someone says, you're calling them racist. He should, yes. I'm calling them racists.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the racist
that
thing.
Part's fine, but what they're going to say is the debate in the media will be the following. Charlie Rangel said white crackers.
Yeah.
Does that mean now we can say black niggers? And what's worse? That's going to be a debate, and that is unhelpful.
Yes,
that's unhelpful.
Yes.
We shouldn't have that debate because it's pointless.
And it's going to, so look, here's the thing. If you had an actual objective media that covered it objectively, and one side's doing something crazy, the other side's doing something crazy, and they call both sides out, great. But we don't have that media. No. We have the media that's going to, so when the right-wingers do it, they go, that's a legitimate Tea Party, it's a faction of the country, we have to respect it. When anyone on the left does it, that is radical, extreme, ridiculous, how dare they, and you see the left is just as bad as the right. It's going to open up them to saying, one guy did it on the Democratic side, whereas an entire faction, 30%, 40, 50, sometimes 60% of the Republican Party does it. Oh, great, we get to call it even.
Chick, we're living in the aftermath of where's his birth certificate? Where nobody, and Mitt Romney saying, nobody ever asked me for my birth certificate. The racist, Donald Trump on stage with Mitt Romney. Newt Gingrich calling him the food stamp president, telling Juan Williams to get a job. I mean, it's about time somebody called this stuff out for what it is. Rick Santorum saying, just want to give money to black people. I said blah people. You know what I mean? So it's about time somebody said something. And I think it's, the problem is the Democrats will not have a united voice on this like the Republicans do.
Well, and to follow on from that, if you're going to have someone try it out, sort of send up the trial balloon or whatever, it's got to be somebody like Representative Rangel, because like freshman senators like Obama come in and they're deferential, they don't really want to do anything, and they're so weak. That's a sort of, unfortunately, temperament that sort of leads to Democratic politicians. So maybe someone like him who on any given election might be retiring, maybe he can afford to try it out and suffer the consequences.
And that comes back to my final point, which is that Charlie Rangel's reached a point in his life where he's like, no holds barred.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't give a damn what anybody thinks of me, and I'm going to call it out as I see it. I mean, whether I agree with him or not, he's earned the right to say whatever the hell he likes. He's been in Congress for approximately 185 years.